Hey everyone, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure seeing you tonight. It's also an honor to have a sense that you came to listen to us. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to start by thanking you. With this, and despite Cyprian's optimistic outlook, I'd like to start perhaps with the current reality, and then we can turn inwards and towards our present and future opportunities. I think right now we are living, and probably in few years and few decades back, we're going to turn back into these years that we're currently living and understand and say, this is when it started. We are living what I called the Great Unravelling. The Great Unravelling is a confluence of multiple crises that we are familiar with now. None of us are surprised, should be surprised by what I'm saying at the moment. We have gone to droughts, to bushfires, unprecedented, affecting 3/4 of the Australian populations. And then at the time where we needed most social cohesion and turn and get the support from each other, we got separated and entered social isolation due to COVID-19. That drained us, that brought us down. We kept some integrity, but it was difficult. We get affected by floods, we get affected by economic crisis, and here, of course, in the region, and all of the east coast of Australia, we get affected by deep housing crisis. So looking at the reality at the moment, looking at what science is telling us about the future, it is partly difficult to be optimistic. And I think we have to acknowledge this reality. Some people are saying, oh, let's go back to normal. Some people say the gas-led recovery is the way forward. I'm saying, let's pause. Because we need it. I don't think any one of us here in this room has not been affected by these events, just because we are humans. I feel those crises, and maybe I'm simplifying here, but all have a common root, a common reason for them. And we can extrapolate, we can discuss this, but at the core of it, I feel the problem, the fundamental issue is our disconnection. Our disconnection with the ecosystems, our disconnection with each other, our disconnection with ourselves. When I ask my students, how much time do you spend on your phones, on your screens, on your computers, and why do you do so? Is it to study? Is it to learn? Is it to be entertained? Or is it simply to numb yourself because it's just so difficult? Many of them, and I have had this experience, doom scroll. Spend time trying to ignore what is happening till they fall asleep, essentially. And I think we can agree that this is not a way to live. This is not fulfilling. So to me, a fundamental starting point, if we are to reimagine the future, is acknowledge this reality. Acknowledge that we are deep into crisis, we're exhausted, we're anxious, we're insecure. But instead of imagining the future from this place of fear, I'd like us to engage in reconnection and imagine the future from this place of inner connection and outward connection. With this, can I please, if you feel comfortable, ask you to sit in your chair, relax, maybe shake a bit your body. And if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to close your eyes for a minute. If you feel comfortable, I'd like you to simply observe your breath. Don't try to change it, just observe it. In and out. I'd like you to listen to what I say, but not the words. I'd like you to listen to the silence in between my words. And I'd like you to observe how, when you observe the silence in my words, perhaps you can also observe a silence in your mind. Perhaps our chattering monkey mind ceases for a second. And before you get caught by another idea that will get you somewhere out of this place, I'd like you to observe the space just below your belly button. And imagine if this place was able to speak, what would it tell you right now? What emerges for me is a deep sense of calm, of quietness, of groundedness. And the more I observe it, the more I pay attention to it, I can sense it is guiding me. So I invite all of us to look at the future from this place. I invite you to get in touch regularly with this place and observe how it transforms you. Thank you. So I think it's this, from this place of what I call the great peace, which we can confront the great unravelling. It is from this place of connection with oneself, but also through this place of connection, we naturally see the connection in between ourselves. And as I speak, I sense a collective in the room. I sense something happening. And it is from this place that when I walk in the forest, I sense a connection with the environment. And there we call it different, something different than the environment, as if it was around us. But of course, we are part of us. It is an ecosystem. So the root cause of the great unraveling is the fact that we have broken ourselves apart from this ecosystems. We have considered outside of it. We thought we could master it. We thought we could use it and build a world that has suited us, and it has. I don't think there was any ill intention when we started, logging trees and planting seeds a few thousand years ago, and then building empires out of this. There's no ill intention, it just made sense. So there's no reason to blame our ancestors for the way of living. But I think we can reconsider our lives today and look at, okay, what can we now do with this knowledge and move forward? The way I see it is we live in a series of systems which are fundamentally flawed because they're based on this disconnection. So if you look at the economic system, if you look at the food system, if you look at the housing system, if you look at the education system, the health system, all of these issues are fundamentally flawed. And I'm sure all of us have stories about what has not worked or what is fundamentally wrong. And of course, we do live in an era of unprecedented wealth. But are we really happier? Are we really fulfilled? Do we feel the joy in our lives? Australia, like many Western countries, is in the middle of a deep epidemic of loneliness, of mental health and existential crisis. So yes, we have the material wealth, but we do not have the inner joy. So from this place of inner joy, from this place of connection, we can look at those systems and think, how would you, and I invite you to consider that seriously, how would you redesign our systems? Because now is a good time to think about it. What would make a food system regenerative? What system could it put into place so that instead of creating scarcity and soil erosion and destroying and cutting forests to grow more food, how can we rethink our food system so that we nurture the land and we care for country rather than take from it. A friend of mine mentioned how some time ago he was in a community garden and someone asked him, I really like those butterflies and I'd love to have more of these butterflies in my garden. How can I have more of these? And said, well, that's easy, just grow this plant. And it's great. So he took a few plants, brought them home, planted them, and then came back to see my friends 3 weeks later and said, you know what, I planted the plants, the trees, they're grown, they're going well, but it hasn't attracted many butterflies at all, actually. In fact, I had plenty of caterpillars instead. What can I do to get some butterflies? And it is a true story. And this, of course, is anecdotal, but this underlines a disconnection. We have lost our connection with natural cycles. So how can we look at our water cycles and regenerate it? How can we look at our communities and make sure that cooperation and connection is rewarded? Why should we compete against each other? Are we really, in our daily lives, are you always thinking being better than your neighbor, being better than your boss, being better than your colleagues? No, it's not our nature. So why don't we change the values that guide us every day? Many of my students struggle with mental health issues, and I understand they carry a serious burden on their shoulders. And those who are acutely aware of the climate crisis suffer the most. But those who are aware of the climate crisis, acting upon it from a place of connection, are those who are the least anxious about it, the most empowered to do something. Yet, even though I'm grateful for their work and the many climate scientists, climate change experts I have interviewed as part of my academic research have told me what gave them hope is this youth strike movement happening globally to take some serious climate action, I'm also saddened because why on earth are we expecting teenagers to do stuff that we should have done long ago? It's on us now to transform the system. From this place of connection, with an objective of regenerating the land, of regenerating our communities, regenerating our systems, we build resilience. It comes naturally. We don't even have to think about it. If you start diversifying your sources of food, you become resilient. If you start developing and nurturing relationship, you become resilient. If you understand the root cause of our anxieties and tensions, you become resilient. So with this in mind, Resilient Byron is a non-for-profit which we created 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, in the Byronshire. And this is what we work on: connection, regeneration, resilience. We support residents to reconnect, to build their own resilience, and to create regenerative systems. So we bring together people who live as part of a community, which can be a street, a neighborhood, or it can be a yoga group, or a firefighter group, or teachers, parents. And then we connect them with other residents who have an expertise, a passion in food security, water security, housing security, health and well-being, safety and emergency, energy security. And together, we come up with answers. We have, in this short time, implemented a number of projects, including the Resilience and Regeneration Roadshow, when we toured the Byronshire to explain and get people on board, have these conversations that we are having tonight. We had the Resilience Hub at Renouf 2 weeks ago, where I was astounded by the need that the people had to engage in conversation in those topics. Last Sunday, we had the first workshop of 7th month workshop on building resilient communities, where we train facilitators to get the skills in facilitation and understand what is climate crisis, how do we build food resilience, water resilience, ecosystems resilience, infrastructure resilience, etc., and then go in their communities and train others in turn. And at the moment, we are starting a new project, which is community carers and responders. So we're identifying, mobilizing, and training 100 people in the Northern Rivers to become community carers and responders. If you feel you're in one of these natural nurturers, if you already engage in a community, or if you'd like to be skilled to engage in a community, by all means, talk to us. Thank you.